Hi, welcome to the Views from the Valley, your weekly roundup of the news here in the United States, coming to you from the v3.co.uk offices in San Francisco. With me as ever, Shaun Nichols. Hi, Shaun.
Hi, Iain.
Right, okay, what with Memorial Day weekend, which is a long Monday, and you taking a significant break off, then we have less news this week, but still some interesting stuff, certainly. First off, we had a long discussion today about a story which we eventually decided wasn't good enough for the news site, but was certainly for a Mac Inspector piece.
It's something that's up on the Mac Inspector blog. There's a link to it through our front page, I believe.
Indeed.
Basically, the story is that Intego, a Mac security company, is claiming that there's a new piece of spyware out for Mac OS systems. It's called Premier Opinion. It's actually a port of something that's been available for the PC for a few years now.
So what does it actually do that they define it as malware?
Well, it performs some basic spyware acts. Basically, it kind of tracks some of your behavior, uploads it to a remote server, stuff that would be considered spyware. The thing is, the company behind it, which is a subsidiary of a larger advertising firm, they're basically saying that this isn't really malware because users are told what it is, they're told its behavior, and then users actually have to click and accept the terms of service in order to install this. So their claim is that, well, no, this isn't malware. It's not something that we're just covertly putting on your system.
They do have a point in that. I mean, basically, if viruses came with "Are you sure you want to sign these terms and conditions?" thing, they'd be not out there because people don't read the T's and C's. But it's difficult to class this as malware, surely.
Yeah, it's kind of the Zango principle.
Right.
The old advertising software. Basically, if they told you up front by itself what this is and what it does on your system, you're probably not going to want to put this on there. You're not going to install it. So what they do is they bundle it with other things, and a lot of times that means bringing in affiliates, other developers, free software developers looking to make a buck, that sort of thing. Kind of monetize their product there. And those developers and those companies, those affiliate companies, aren't always straightforward with what it does. They'll kind of, bury the behavior there, or just leave it out completely. Especially when you're paying by the download, you're paying these affiliates by the installation.
Right.
They can a lot of times they'll just use flat out. They flat out won't tell you, or they'll use kind of malicious, backdoor tactics to get it in there.
So I think we were right. It's not technically malware, but it is bloody annoying and needs to be stamped on.
I believe it would fall under the potentially unwanted program, the PUP label. Something that you probably wouldn't want if you saw it right away. If they put it up in the very front, attention, this software does this, this, and this. People probably wouldn't be so enthusiastic about it.
I've got to say, though, if Google actually put a thing like that on their homepage saying, yeah, we're logging everything you do.
That's a good point. That's actually, I think, the contention that a lot of these developers make.
Same sort of principle. It's just a varying degree.
Oh, and in this case, it's something they say you can go in through the applications manually, either drag it in the trash or run the included uninstall. So, this probably isn't, this isn't exactly the Sony rootkits.
No, that's fair enough. Well, if you see headlines about Apple malware, now you know. Right, okay, then moving to real malware, we've had a case that came to light today. I know that Samsung Wave phones have launched in the UK now, and they're proving quite popular. But a shipment on its way to Germany has apparently had malware embedded in the micro SD card within the actual phone. So basically when you connect your phone to your PC, and if your PC is still running auto-run on devices being plugged into it, which it really shouldn't from a security perspective, then you get free malware with your great new smartphone. And it's in terms of own goals, it's tricky. If you're manufacturing anything, then you've really got to be careful. And I was trying to work out how many stories we've done about manufacturing.
Yeah, we've done a few of this. I believe.
Had a few.
There's been some retailers that had it. There have been a lot of hard drive vendors that have an issue where it'll get put onto whatever it is that you're copying.
Yes, doing mirror versions of the products,
Yeah, and it just, of course, it gets installed in every single thing.
It's a great way of virus propagation when you think about it.
It's a really great idea if you're trying to spread some malware. But especially as competitive as this market is, as tight as things are right now, this is kind of a disaster.
Well, it's not the first time that Samsung have been caught. They had an incident a couple of years ago where, when the digital picture frames were first coming out, and they shipped one of those with web malware. But Thomson have been hit by it. You've had iPods being sold with malware on. Didn't McDonald's have to recall 10,000 media
I think they ran. It was in China or something where they ran a promotion, and every single one of them got shipped with a virus. Yeah,
but at the end of the day, the central message of stories like this, another one, is only the paranoid survive. So turn auto run off on your computer. You shouldn't be loading software in there automatically. Even if you're buying from a name manufacturer, just treat things with caution. And certainly if you're buying any electrical device on eBay, wipe all memory as soon as possible. You think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, if you think about it, this is something every single time there's a big security issue, we always come back to this. There are so many malware infections that can be prevented by just these really general best practices, auto-run, keeping your system patched and updated. I mean, these are kind of very simple things. And
but they're not getting through. I mean, I did an interview today, which you can read on the site on Monday. System administrators are turning off security in virtualized environments because it's causing such a server lag. And you're like, what is this, the mid-1990s or something? I mean, people were doing that with their AV back then. It does seem we're running into some central cognition problems with how we deal with computer security. We could probably go off on one. We'll save that for one of our next podcasts where we can actually lay into it after a suitable light refreshment. Right, and then also finally, okay, your second story for the day, and not exactly yours, but it's something that's generated an awful lot of comment. It did take place in the United States, and it just boggles the mind. You tell them, I'm just going to get too angry otherwise.
A woman is suing Google, claiming that the Google Maps service gave her bad directions, and she ended up, I believe, getting hit by a car, right? Mm-hmm. Claiming that this is Google's fault because they gave her these bad directions. Someone was pointing out if that's the case, then basically every gas station attendant who's ever given directions and any good Samaritan is actually, told a driver where somewhere is somehow liable for that driver's own stupidity.
I could sue a couple of dating site videos for introducing online dating sites for introducing me to complete psychos as well. But I mean, come on, you're an American. I know this is the land of the lawsuit to the point. But
we really like lawsuits. And part of it is because so many of them are either settled out of court or the other party doesn't show up and you get a default judgment, things like that.
But the sheer chutzpah of someone to say, well, it boggles the mind. I mean,
people like money. That's kind of the thing.
But don't people get that, all of these lawsuits have a knock-on effect in terms of costs, which then get passed on to the consumer, so we all end up paying, But people want the big
I'm sure this
payout.
Woman will be suitably, received by the public as well.
One would hope so. Yes, exactly. But okay, well, just to wrap up then, and coming back to the more traditional topics on V3, putting an analysis piece up today, just looking at supercomputing, because we've had an awful lot of announcements, but the very concept of what a supercomputer is has changed so drastically in the last 5 to 10 years. I mean, I know you're a big fan of Seymour Cray, and understandably, the guy was very much ahead of his time. But is he dead yet?
Yeah,
he is. I thought so. Yeah, but I mean, in terms of how the whole market is crystallising and developing, we're seeing some very interesting signs. As you pointed out when we were talking about this earlier, cell processors, which are designed for gaming stations, are being used in massive numbers of supercomputers. Microsoft just announced a deal yesterday where it was getting into bed with Novell over SUSE so they had better interoperability for high-performing cluster operations. I think HPC is really sort of kicking in now into the mainstream, and partly because, you can now buy a Cray for the desktop.
That's basically the thing, is that what used to have to utilize, huge clusters. This has always kind of been the case, but now it's really becoming the case. The classical definition of a supercomputer, is now something you can plug into your TV and play video games on. I think part of it's the introduction of multi-core, multi-threading, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that helps.
That really helps things a lot. And then just the natural progression of technology. The supercomputer, now as we kind of have understood it, it's a desktop now.
Yeah. No, I know. It's for someone who was brought up on films of where the supercomputer in the film is always like bank after bank of these huge rotating tapes, and it's just. Yeah, literally, you can get what classifies as a supercomputer, which would fit, on your standard office desktop. I won't say it's fit on this desktop because it's massive, but you know what I'm saying.
I think in some senses, I guess you can kind of attribute that to the Cold War, the end of the Cold War. During the Cold War, you had such a demand for you. First off, you had the demand for these machines, and you also had the government who had all sorts of money to spend, and a lot of this was also classified technology.
True.
Technology that a lot of people didn't have access to, a lot of businesses didn't have access to.
No, I suppose so. I guess that's one benefit too.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's a fair case in point. I mean, the difference now is, I think from an IT manager's perspective, is if you're investing in large-scale computing power, then what new things have you got to learn? You know, what system isn't going to work in this new
well, and I think while the technology has grown so much, in a lot of cases the tasks that you want to do really haven't. So things that you used to have to do a huge supercomputer for, you can do with smaller deployments, a single server in some cases, a desktop in some cases, and that requirement has the power that you required in a lot of cases hasn't grown.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, you can now get. The processing power has grown so much that it takes things right down. I mean, I used to say what Intel gives, Microsoft takes away, but I mean, when it comes to HPC, so many of these are running custom operating systems anyway, and I think that's what a lot of Microsoft's announcement was yesterday, with Novell was about. Okay, right, well, we shall crack on, but you can read about more of these and other stories at www.v3.co.uk.